All right. Looks like we're
Woohoo!
streaming.
We're live.
Hello, everyone. This is Continuing Committee's October 2020 Board of Directors meeting. I'm Brian Schaeflein, Director of Operations. We've got Maggie Geppert, Executive Officer. We've got Jark Ott, and if I am pronouncing your name wrong, TJ is good. Okay.
TJ is good.
We got TJ, who is the new Director of Second Edition. We've got Charlie Plain, Director of First Edition, Scott Bowman, Director of Communications, Chris Sonsonby, who is Director of Organized Play, and Justin Ford, who is the Chief Financial Officer. I keep wanting to say Director of Finance for some reason. We have a pretty light agenda for this meeting. First up, approval of minutes from the last meeting. Did anyone see anything more that needed corrected in those minutes?
There were a bunch of corrections that had been posted that I didn't see them get made.
I just made them. I just posted. Sorry, I'm slacking. I was being late again. All the corrections were made as Maggie outlined.
I would motion to approve them as amended.
Second.
All right. Any objections to that? All right, then. Minutes are approved. Department reports. Maggie, you want to start?
Sure. I have been, I'm still working on the frequently asked questions. I am slowly organizing them into something that makes has some flow to it. I'm adding sections for a first edition specific and second edition specific FAQ. Maybe I should do maybe I should also have a section for like an organized play FAQ if there's enough questions about that. So it may expand a bit depending on that. But I have been using the I've basically been going through the help me make the FAQ better thread in FYI, and just going through and adding items as they show up in the thread. So if anybody watching this has any suggestions on how to improve the frequently asked questions section of the Trek CC site, I am open to ideas for what we can put there. And now, since I'm adding in the sections on, we've had specific questions like on first edition, like what are the different formats and how did they come to be? Why is there OTF? And, can I still use backwards compatible cards? So if you have things like that you think would be good in like a first edition or a second edition specific FAQ, go ahead and add them to the master thread. Part of that is working on resources for new players. So I've been gathering those. Seems like our best resources for new players are the Lucas's demo decks, Lucas Thompson's Edge of Hearing's demo decks for second edition, that for first edition, the coming of age starters, and then the Squire's Rule. So I'm going to write that one out as start with the coming of age starters, and then if you want to level up there, the Squire's Rules versions that Brian Sykes Armis made for his kid-friendly 1E tournament a couple of weeks, maybe a month or two ago now. And then my family Tribbles set, 6 decks of balanced Tribbles, 6 balanced Tribbles decks. So those are the resources for new players that I've gathered. I should be starting the period of review stuff. Requests for comments are going to start up, usually due early mid-November. So that's in my radar. So that's what I have. That's what I've had going on for my EXO duties. I almost slipped there into the St. Louis accent just for a second, because you say instead of saying four, you say bar in St. Louis. So I tried to train myself out of that. It slips.
Charlie, first edition.
That is the thing. I can turn on my camera, I suppose. First edition just put out a new set, A Private Little War. Came out last Friday and became legal yesterday. And the whole department is really, really happy about the reception of the set. The buzz has been really good. Players seem to have really enjoyed the stuff in there. Obviously, it's not been played with a ton yet, but there's some fun cards in there. There's some game-changing cards in there with the new civilizations, the new trope. There's a chance to play Klingons, and somebody really wants to say hi. This is Nola, official first edition dog. So now she wants nothing to do with it. Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff, and we're really eager to see how it impacts tournaments that take place for the rest of the year. There's a big tournament going right now that started before this was legal, but there are bigger tournaments coming, as Chris will talk about. I'm very excited to see how these cards land and shape up the meta. So, Private Little War is available now. 63 new cards available for free and immediate download. In other big news, Will of the Collective has returned. It's the 8th version that the continuing committee has done. Will of the Collective is a community process-driven design, and basically we do submit ideas and we do votes, and through that process, the community makes a card that goes through testing and comes out. In fact, A Private Little War had the 2 cards we made last year, Yarnek the Excalbion and Examine Morality the Mission. So we're doing that again, and this time we are closing a broken link, to which I am sure many people are singing the songs of praise because they hate broken links, because they hate fun. Just kidding. So right now the poll is up through the 30th with 15 options for people to vote. Excuse me. Excuse me. For people to vote on which broken link we're going to use. And I haven't checked today, but when I checked yesterday, Gach and Group of Individuals, which are 2 named cards, were neck and neck. I'm going to go check right now. They are still tied at 41 votes apiece. So there's a lot more than 41 of you out there. So please go check out the poll on the Money forums and vote for which broken links you want to close. It's approval voting this year. So you vote for every option that you like, and the one that gets the most votes moves forward. If we do end up tied, there'll be a runoff to decide which card. But we're either going to make Klingon Worms or a card that's it's downloaded by Chef Kaga, or Third of 5, non-aligned Third of 5 if we proceed right now. So that voting is open through 10:30, and then the process begins in earnest on 11/2, where we start basically each step is about 2 days long. You get to submit ideas for 2 days, and then we vote on them, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. It's a chance to make a cool card. Go check it out now. In terms of, I took notes so I would be briefer, and I'm still talking just as much. Apparently, I can't not talk. Project Storm is the next one set. It's moving along through testing, getting a lot of engagement on it, which is good. The set is inspired by the 10-episode finale of Deep Space Nine. It's not to say that it is the end-all be-all of DS9. It's not capturing every story beat. It's only one set, but that's where they're drawing the inspiration. Right now, the set currently features cards to support an Alpha Quadrant Alliance deck, so playing DS9 Feds, Klingons, Romulans, and Bajorans together, an Alpha Quadrant Dominion deck, sort of an occupied Cardassia, and a Cardassian Resistance deck. And if the earliest you guys will see that set would be February of 2021. So not coming out soon, but you've got a new set just that came out, so there's time to let that breathe and let that play. But we are moving along. And projects Rogue and Solo, which are the 2 movie block sets, are in design. They're moving along nicely. And we recently announced that coming after that, the next block, the first block 7, is going to be a return to the Delta Quadrant. We're going to be doing 2 sets focused on Vidians, Kazon, and Hirogen, with a side of Klingons, Maquis, and Federation. So there's been a lot of people waiting a long time for that. The other big announcement that we have to make, and I've been hinting about this for a while, is that Make It So will be returning next year. Make It So, previously, we've done it 3 times. It's been a reality show style competition where people get designed. It's a process by which we hire designers. So in the past, it's been a reality show style competition like Top Chef or the baking show, where you get challenges every week and then you get judged, and then the lowest scoring person is eliminated at a certain point and the winner gets hired. The last time we did it was 2013, and we got James Monsabroten Orban, who joined out of it, and he just released his first solo lead set with Private Little War. So he's been awesome, and we're looking forward to getting some more great staff from the next Make It So. And in fact, quite a few of the members of our staff came from Make It So. So this time when we do it, it will be less reality show style and more based on education and training, where we're actually like just teaching people to make 1E, and we're still working on the details, but the plan is if you this is just an example, but if you get a 75% on all overall score, you're hired. So we're looking for staff, and this is a great way to get it. So stay tuned for that coming next year. And finally, as we finish up 2020 and we move into 2021 and the eventual period of review, I'm going to be publishing and talking about the 1E long-term plan. It'll be shared with everybody by the end of the year. It's going to cover sort of our assessment of 1E, where 1E is now, the problems that we see and that we potentially see, and how we're going to address them, and sort of talk through how we're going to do things as we move forward. So that will be presented publicly and for public comment, and we'll be answering questions about that. So you guys know where we're taking this beloved and fantastic game. And that was everything that I had. I look forward to hearing questions over the next couple weeks. So I'm done. Thank you, Brian.
All right, TJ, you want to talk about 2nd edition?
Yeah, so first thing I have to announce, I'm happy that Stephen Slaby has agreed to be errata lead, no longer interim, but he is on the job full. That was the first thing. Then I would hand one thing, the next set showing up in 2nd edition, back to Charlie, because he was on the job for me, because he's still teaching me. So maybe he can say something about the next set coming up in 2nd edition.
Sure. I want to thank TJ for letting me sort of finish that project out, since I was managing most of it, and having the chance to work with him to sort of learn stuff. My involvement in 2E right now is mostly just teaching TJ the stuff he needs to know. But Apocalypse Rising will be coming out pretty soon. I don't have the exact date for you, but I would expect in the next 2 weeks to see the set start. It's 27 cards. It's the second set in the interaction cycle. It's ironically, it is very similar to Project Storm in that it's going to feature DS9 content, including Dominion Cardassians and some DS9 Fed cards. It's a very different set than all our yesterdays, but it's got some cool stuff in it. There's some interactive stuff in it, and I think you guys are really going to like it. So stay tuned. That will be coming to you very soon. We'll be announcing it very soon, and then you'll see it shortly thereafter, after some daily spoilers. Right now, we're just so you know, the set's done, the proofreading's done, the art's done. We're just doing the release planning right now. So as soon as we get that done and the tech people can get the cards loaded, we will start. So very soon. Thanks, TJ. Back to you.
Yes, thank you. After the next set, Apocalypse Rising, there will be the Christmas set. Then the next set after that, I make Christmas set. Timeline is clear. After that is Project Connor. I had a first look at Project Connor. It looks very interesting. There are some cards I have problems with, and I gave that back to designers, and they work on this problem. But my first look at the set was a good set. It's a little bit about dissidents, Federation dissidents, a little bit about Ferengi. I think it's a set in a good condition. After that, there will be my agenda working parallel projects. So there is the project Justice. That are cards from older set that will be somehow revived. Then I have in the pipe Project Diana, which is more focusing on Voyager, a little bit on holograms. And I have the what I call a community set in the pipe. I will tell a little bit more about that later. And then I'm prepared for having a Christmas set next year. So this Christmas set next year is called Project Civilian. What's showing up after Project Connor, I don't know. It is maybe the Project Justice, maybe it's kind of community set, maybe Project Diana, it depends. I also had decided to have a new affiliation, and there are big discussions, maybe what's the best affiliation coming up next. I will not name the affiliation. I will have an interview with Scott about that topic. But the decision why I have this affiliation was very simple. I have the designers and the designers working on project. And the next free designer, I asked him what he wants to do. And I have some affiliation in mind, and he came up with an idea for an affiliation. I said, okay, that would be a good idea. So the reason why we made this affiliation is simply because, first of time reasons, he said, I can do that. I'm the next free available designer. So we have that affiliation, and we will set that in motion, but that will take, it's a more long run project. Yeah, I will have an interview with Scott about that and will answer some more questions. If people are unsatisfied with that affiliation, be sure I have new affiliation on my monitor as well as sub-affiliations. The community set, what I call a community set, feedback from players are, it was published a week ago. I think it was Tuesday when Scott and I had the interview about that. I had more and better response than I expected. So people were sending cards, suggestions for cards. I just had the status to collect them. And there are a lot of players who send good ideas with long explanation. So one side, why they want these cards, why they were inspired by the cards, what was their motivation, what is the theme, and so on. And they do a lot of good work and spending time on creating these cards, and it's very interesting. And some people said there was no response to that. And at this stage, I can say, not going to the quality, but at this stage, I could say, if I want to make a set of 27 cards, I would have these 27 cards. Yeah. So the response of the community is there. People use it. I like to have more. But for me, from a first point of view, it seems the community wants to take part of that project. And now we have to see how the quality is. My first look for the quality of the cards, people send it to me. It's just my first impression. It was very good. Some cards are very challenging, but a lot of ideas are very, very interesting and a good step to work on. The other thing I also think was a good idea, I put rookies, people who like to do a little bit design work, a little bit more than just community design in design as rookies. I already put 2 people in design for doing that. And one is just at a beginner status. The other is working on a set. And what I got as a feedback from him and from designer, there were no problems. They work good together. And it's fruitful for both sides. It was a very interesting experience. And if that continues, I would like to have more people going to design on Rookie. So that was, most things I have to say from my side.
Okay. Scott, want to do some communications updates?
Sure thing. Big update from last time is, as TJ talked about, we had a video interview between myself and him posted on the main site earlier this month, where he and I, just last week actually, this week I guess, is still Saturday, yeah, where he and I discussed public design. As he said, he's already gotten a lot of good feedback from that posting. I did see a request on the dojo to put up some text bullet points from the video for folks who can't necessarily watch the video. And so I will go and amend that article with a few bullet points there in the future. But I think on the whole, the message got across quite clear. And I think the fact that TJ has already received several quality ideas for new cards for second edition from that means that people understood what we were talking about, and I think they're excited to participate at least in the brainstorming part of the card design process. Other communication updates. I did speak with Austin a bit, our social media folks over there, about putting up some posts regarding Will of the Collective 8, like Charlie was talking about, because I think there is a lot of desire in the community to see Broken Links be closed. And so Austin has done a great job of already posting that stuff on various social media platforms, including in several Facebook groups. So not just on the Continuing Committee's Facebook page, but within the Facebook groups that we were talking about earlier before the meeting started, of folks that are quarantined and looking at their old CCG fandoms and have been talking a lot about Star Trek cards and buying a lot of Star Trek cards. And so those folks are now aware of Will of the Collective and how, they can get a chance to vote on what might show up as a new virtual card in first edition. So there's been some positive feedback on that amongst those who were like, wow, I didn't know people were still doing stuff for Star Trek CCG. And myself and several other members of the community, including Austin and others, have been there talking to people about it and saying, yeah, we do lots of stuff for both first edition, second edition, and triples. And so I think that's been good for a lot of positive engagement. And then finally, I want to say thanks to Danny, OK Coyote, out there for already jumping on the ball to do planning for articles about the release of the upcoming second edition set that Charlie and TJ were just talking about, Apocalypse Rising. Gee, what an appropriate year for an apocalypse themed set. Anyway, that's all from the communications department.
All right. I guess Ops is next, and that's me. As you heard from Charlie, Art was busy with those back-to-back sets, and now they've got another one to work on, or are finishing up rather. What else we got? Over on programming, plugging along, making minor improvements. Just released a forum feature for premium members, which allows you to ignore threads. You'll never see them as unread ever again if you want that. You can also undo that that was one thing we had to make sure was possible before we released that. What else we got? I'm not entirely clear where we are in on the next raffle yet. I have to get with Dan on that. I think that's it for right now for ops, unless anyone else can think of something.
Couple of questions. Are we going to have new achievements for either of these new sets? The
The new achievements, yes, the new achievements for Private Little War right before the meeting. They got updated. They should show up on the achievements page as new achievements. And yes, there will be some for the next 2E set too. So
I literally just sent them to Rogue to start working on, which
you
I
guys
should
are
have
good.
done.
You're on the
Should
ball.
have done, a week or two ago, but I thought of it this morning, so it's done. So.
Well, I just want to know if I'm going to earn an achievement tomorrow. That's all.
you
My
will.
tournament. Maybe.
If you do the right things. So,
When have you ever known me to do the right things, Charlie? I mean, that's-
never.
just accept
It'll
that.
count as a release event at least, right?
I don't know, attempting with KCA with 3 and losing your draw engine.
Thanks for that. The saltiness is strong with Justin already this morning. He needs more coffee.
Hey, I already had one. I can't have more than one. My heart will start racing. Anyway, squirrel.
Assuming there's nothing else ops related, Chris, organized play.
Well, I guess I feel like we're bad. We didn't formally even welcome TJ to the meeting. We just went right into it. So I'm going to do that, even though it's like halfway through. Welcome to the party. As far as organized play
You
goes,
can't help your Minnesota, can you? You just
I can't. Nope. It's inbred. Oh, that was the wrong word choice. It's bred in me. That sounds horrible.
Hey,
so
wait a
organized
minute. Appalachian over here. We get to call the
Oh,
inbred stuff.
Oh
Come
boy.
on.
Oh boy. Check, please. From an organized play standpoint, this last month we've had a number of successful tournaments. Some of the Subspace Series tournaments wrapped up. I know Charlie and I finished up that ID draft. Maggie's been running triples all the time. I'm looking at the completed events page, and we also had some very successful in-person tournaments. So very good kudos to the group that did the Vegas tournaments that happened a couple weeks ago. German Nationals happened within the same weekend, I believe. And moving forward, we've got a couple more in-person tournaments happening in the next few weeks. My regionals, when I was kind of highlighting there, that we're running tomorrow here at the house. And then a bit more importantly, we have Austrian Nationals happening next week. And that's, I think, all 3 games, looks like on the sheet. And then some online tournaments or in-person tournaments that are going online. I believe we're going to be announcing shortly that the UK Nationals, I believe, is going online. So us Americans will get the chance to invade their nationals like they did us in July. So again, thanks to everybody who's been running events, playing in tournaments throughout this crazy time. I find it hilarious and sad at the same time that we're naming a set Apocalypse Rising, because that kind of feels like what's going on in the Midwest with the coronavirus lately.
Hey,
So-
I was promised zombies for my apocalypse. I'm very
Oh,
disappointed
well,
by this
yeah.
apocalypse.
Hey, we have you all need to be quiet. We have 2 months left in this hellscape of 2020. Stop it.
Yep, no kidding. Charlie's side of the country is still on fire, so let's not go too far down the rabbit hole. We could
Isn't there
end up.
supposed to be an asteroid for the election too?
Oh, geez.
Yeah, there's like a 0.04% chance that there's an asteroid that hits us like the day after the election, which, at this point, whatever.
I welcome our space overlords.
No. Neil deGrasse Tyson says no. And if you can't believe Neil deGrasse Tyson, who can you believe?
Right. So off the rails already. We always are on mine. I'm actually running Masters. Masters of the Universe 3 is happening right now. This first week, as Charlie alluded to, it's Private Little War is not legal for it. And we've already had some game results coming in. So thanks to those people who are playing. I think we got about 15 people or 14 people in both tournaments. So that's great. And, that's part of the Subspace Championship Series. And I still have lots of prizes to mail out. So if you've been playing in those tournaments, or are going to try to in the next month, please do so, because you will get all kinds of super fun foils that I am shipping out at the conclusion of those tournaments. The only other big organized play news is obviously in light of the success of the Subspace Championship Series and the ongoing pandemic, the organized play team and myself have talked about we're going to expand our team. We're going to have a specific person who will be the online organized play coordinator going forward. And that'll be within the next few weeks. I plan to get an article up. I wanted to let Masters start, not detract from that, but we will be the three of us just going to be running some interviews, assuming we get some candidates who are interested in the position. So we'll be posting an article about applying for it, and then probably a 2-week period or however much to allow people to apply, and then we'll schedule this interviews with the team. And the duties are somewhat still kind of getting fleshed out, but we're hoping that the Subspace Championship Series will continue next year, and that's something that I could certainly use help with. And obviously just continue to promote online play with the pandemic being so uncertain and vaccines so uncertain. We just want everybody to play, and if that means playing online in your pajamas from home, that's still good enough for us. So if you're at all interested, please kind of make note that that's coming, and we will be hopefully soliciting applications here in the next week or so. That's what I've got for organized play.
All right.
Any questions?
All right. Justin, how's finance going?
Not much. Yeah, not much. It hasn't really been much activity in the last month. Which some activity with Promenade with the release kits going for both sets. So that's cool. People are still getting the promos that take a long time to make and design and go through. So that's cool. Enjoying the foils. Everybody loves foils. Everybody loves shinies. Just reviewing the forums, it looks like there's some stuff to be discussed internally. So that more to come on that eventually. Maybe at the next month's meeting. And then look to the forums sometime today or tomorrow for updates to all the documents to bring us current going into the winter Christmas season. And it's been good. 2020 is a year that none of us are going to ever forget. I'll tell you that much. So, short and sweet.
Okay. Let's see. We've got no old business from the last meeting, but there's some new business items. Marcus Eberlein asked about errata to the virtual promos for all the games, really. We're not necessarily keeping the old cards in sync when we errata a virtual promo. So he's asking, I guess, if or when updates to the older cards that should have errata but don't.
That used to be our policy, that when we changed a card, if there had been a promo of it, we didn't also change the text of that so that it matched. I think we've moved away from that, but we just haven't gone back and fixed all the older ones. I think we do fix it now. When we errata a card that has a promo, I do believe that they are being changed now. I have the list of the 2E ones. If Marcus or anyone has a list of 1E ones and triple ones that are out of sync, I will make a point to get them corrected. I'll start that process. I can't give you how long it'll take, but we'll get that fixed. And then, but I have the list of the 2E ones. If I can just get some help and get the lists of the other ones, I'll get that going and get that fixed. So, and then it will, from this, and like I said, I think for a while from now on, when we change a card that has a VP, we will change both together. So it should, once we fix it, it shouldn't ever happen again.
Okay. Next new business item is amendments of the bylaws. The proposal version 1.1.2 3. Anybody want to bring any discussion on those? I know we hashed out a lot in the original discussion thread. We've had, we've talked about some other things since then. Is there anything that anyone wants to bring up about this proposal?
I don't have any additional comments or questions. I guess, the main thing is we just got to keep acknowledging that it's a living document. And if we have other errors, the community catches it, we can address them as they come up. I thought you did a great job with revisions. I mean, it obviously was a terrific first crack at it that Maggie worked through. But, as it's been functioning, some of those things are no longer applicable. And some of those things were just, the wrong worded. So the revisions, I think, are great to me. What does everybody else think?
To remind the public, a lot of the changes have to do with making the document a little bit more defined in some places and a little more flexible in other places. So, things in here are tightening the definition of membership with respect to the period of review. So I think it's important that we are standardizing how people can get access to votes during the period of review. So that's one thing that's there. And it's no longer just, hey, do you have a premium membership? Or, hey, have you volunteered for the CC? Like, you actually have to go in and pay some membership dues for that. So I think that that's good. Some of the more flexibility. So I know TJ's making some changes, wants to make some changes to how he runs second edition. Charlie's been wanting to make changes about how he runs first edition, but right now the way the bylaws are laid out, it's very specific in which departments exist in those editions. So, and some of the other sub areas in some of the other departments. So I think that's an important, it's important to relax that a little bit so there's flexibility in how people run their own departments. The original document really was, this is how things are right now, but it wasn't flexible enough for us to change what we do.
I think that's a fair summary. Most of it is about the structure of departments. So if first edition needs a new committee for something, now the director will be empowered to make that committee. If communications, if some new technology comes out tomorrow where we have subspace communications, Scott will be able to form a committee on that. It's just that part of our original bylaws was very rigid, and it was basically, here are the teams you have. These are the people who you have to have in that place, and that was it. Like, there's the bylaw said what we can do, so that's what we did. Now there is a process where a director can make a committee, and if we need to bring in an officer, officer of the corporation for that, then we can approve the officer, and there are bylaws to take care of that. I think that is the biggest part. So yeah, I think Maggie summed up the rest of it. Does anyone want to motion to approve these?
I will so move to change the bylaws.
I'll second.
All right, and we're gonna go down the line vote on this. So Maggie, how do you vote to
Aye.
amend the, okay, aye. Charlie, how do you vote to amend the bylaws?
I vote no.
Okay. TJ, how do you vote
Yes.
to amend? Yes. Scott, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Chris, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Justin, how do you vote?
How about I?
Okay. And for the record, I will vote aye as well as Director of Operations. So those will go into effect immediately. Doesn't change anything right this moment. We just have to, basically, there's some organizational things that we have to just figure out, I guess, amongst ourselves, to see what committees within each department we're carrying over under the new bylaws and which ones become teams, things like that. So yeah, that's that. What do we got here? There was a public comment, supposed to be Ross. Let me check my PMs to see if he said he was going to be running an errand right before this. So I want to make sure he's able to get in if he wants to. All right, he is. So I'm going to send him the link now. In the meantime, has there been any comments on any of the other channels? YouTube or Discord, anything?
I have seen nothing. So. There are people watching, so they're just content to watch.
Ross is here. Okay, Ross, you wanted to talk about gender in the games, right? Can you hear us, Ross?
Sorry?
Can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep. So you wanted to talk about gender in the games, the use of gender in the games?
Yes. First off, I would like to thank the board for giving me an opportunity. Yes, sorry, I'm getting a bit of delay on my end.
If you're watching on YouTube, turn it off, that's why.
Okay. All right, sorry about that. First off, I would like to thank the board for taking the opportunity to listen to me in this matter. It's in reference to ISIS, who was in the most recent one ESET, came out 8 days ago. It has been legal for roughly 36 hours now. Originally, when that card came out, that card did not specifically have a gender. And then it was pointed out that the version of ISIS that we saw at the very end was female, so that the CAD version should probably also be female. Charlie was able to fix that pretty quickly to get that changed. And it was really good that he did that. It was something that was caught beyond late in the process. It was also release day, so there really wasn't a lot of time for that to be fixed, but he was able to use that with his resources and get that done in a quick and efficient manner. The thing that I have issue with is this is a shapeshifter we're talking about. With a shapeshifter, we really aren't too familiar with what the gender should be. There was a card from the previous set which had fluidity with the shape-shifting genders. And in fact, you don't have to look too hard to find shapeshifters in the game or in the franchise that change gender. There's Martia from Undiscovered Country. There's the two from Enterprise that were on Ryza. And there's also Odo, who did impersonate the female founder. So I did find it weird that that change was made. When I look at the history of the game, it is understandable that, especially in first edition, everything has to have some sort of gender, even if that gender is neutral. A lot of cards will go out of their way to say if a card should not be male. Second edition is a little different. In second edition, gender generally doesn't matter. This was somewhat odd with one card from Fractured Time, which featured a founder that was a vase, and the game text specifically said that he was male. But one of the things that I tried to do when I was second edition was to be a little more gender inclusive. You'll note the cards no longer use the term his or her referring to players. They use the term they, just because we don't know what gender a player will be. I'm not quite sure how familiar everyone is with non-gender binary, but there are people who no longer identify as specifically male or female. I know that one of those persons, their name is Kira. That person was on Big Brother Canada a couple years ago. There have also been a couple people that I've met in my personal life that haven't given me permission to explain their names, so I don't want to do so. We're also working in communities that are becoming more gender inclusive. Spoilers for Discovery, but the upcoming season will specifically feature a transgender cast member and a non-gender binary cast member. With the way that the committee is set up, we can't cover Discovery, which is the first Star Trek series led by an African-American female. We also can't touch Lower Decks, which has some BGM, some Black Girl magic, which was actually specifically called out on After Trek. I realize that we can't touch those. I'm not asking you to. I'm just asking you to follow in the lead of some of the other games. Magic the Gathering specifically has a transgender planeswalker, just specifically in case someone goes into their community and is transgender, there is someone that they can identify with. Identity means something. If you want to know why I'm making such a big case about this, if you look at ISIS right now and scroll all the way down, you will see the diversity statement. As an organization, we are willing to accept infinite diversity and infinite combinations. And if the organization doesn't follow that, I really don't know where we would go from here. And I did just want to bring that to the board's attention.
I think that's a very good point. But on the other hand, there's in Money, there's like the rules thing. If it wasn't specified, then it becomes male, and that's a legacy of the original rules of the game, which I think and Charlie could probably speak better to this, but I think it's been being looked at anyway as how do we address that today. I don't know if you want to speak to that, Charlie.
Well, we need to acknowledge a couple things that gender and sexuality are very complicated and aren't simple. And we are an inclusive community, and we want everybody on anywhere on the spectrum, gender, sexuality, race, to feel welcome. But Money was made in 1994. The world was very different in 1994 than it is in 2020. And gender is a construct that this game uses that is defined with 3 options at the moment: male, female, and neuter, which is a horrible term that I know the rules team has been looking at and has done some research on and has talked to non-gender binary members of our community about. And if anything that we can do to clean that up, we will. But the reality is that the game is built upon an outdated gender model that the infrastructure of the game doesn't really allow us to change. And we've made nods to the fact that gender and sexuality are more complicated. I mean, we made shapeshift fluidity for a gameplay reason, so that founders, the Dominion was not destroyed by cards that required females as much as they were, but the name was a nod specifically to the fact that, you know, gender fluidity is a thing. But there's also no evidence that Odo at any point considered himself female while he was impersonating a female, or that Martia didn't consider herself female while she was impersonating a male. And the reality of the situation with Isis was she was intended to be a female character. She was intended to be a female card. When it was pointed out that we made a mistake, we corrected the mistake. And interpreting that as anything more, and interpreting that as us, you know, oppressing gender fluidity or gender representation, I think is doing all the volunteers that work on the game a disservice. That was not the intention. We do want everybody to feel included and welcome, but we're working in something of an archaic structure, and you know, we're going to keep looking for opportunities to improve and reflect the reality of the situation. You know, unfortunately, we're limited on our source material. Like, you can bet if we made, you know, if we had access to discovery content, I would make a male's love interest with Stamets or Culber on it, and I would make female's love interest with Reno on it. Vague spoilers from last season of Discovery, but we don't have access to that material. We don't have access to anything that, you know, can help us better reflect reality in our game, except what we can control. So, you know, I know the rules team is continuing to look at this issue. It's not important to a lot of people, but it's important to some, and that's enough for us to spend time on it. I think is the best thing I could say. But I don't think this was your intention, Ross, but implying that we changed ISIS in order to, you know, reinforce a gender binary or exclude people is false. And if that is the implication that you're making, I would be very upset, but I don't think it is. I think you're just using this as a platform, and that's fine. But you should interpret the change to ISIS as correcting a mistake and not patriarchy bullshit. So.
I mean, I think it is a good for like moving forward with new cards, you know, interaction cards, you know, how we write texts of, say, dilemmas, or, you know, where our opponent gets to pick, you know, making sure that, you know, we don't use, you know, the he, she, or, you know, the two, you know, the binary choice, but choose like the opponent picks, or some, you know, something that's more neutral, that's inclusive of everyone. So as new cards get created that, you know, identify, you know, the opponent picks something, making sure
we don't use that language much in 1E. I know we do in 2E, and as Ross said, that change was made. So like on 2E cards, when you're referring to a player, you use they or them. Language evolves, and we will too. But you know, there's a card in the cage it's like randomly select two people and they run off together. I think it's the one with the space lizards. But that card was made as when in playtesting, I'm fairly sure it was gender neutral love interest. It was just two people go off together and have a romantic getaway. But there wasn't an example of that to use that wasn't heteronormative, so it became space lizards, which in and of itself is heteronormative, but at least it's lizard. I guess it's lizard normative. I don't know what the right term there is. But we're aware of the realities of the world, and we want to represent them as best we can. We want transgender, we want LGBTQ plus people, we want gender fluid people to feel welcome to play 1E. If you don't, contact me and I'll do everything I can to correct that mistake. But changing the infrastructure of 1E is not easy, and it is not quick. And
especially for 1E, you have to keep in mind that the very original version of the game, that was a tentpole, you know, gender was a tentpole aspect of every personnel. It was just a thing that there was by rule. And so changing everything from then on is complicated, but they're working on it at least.
Yeah, I approve of the fact that the first edition team is looking at the wording for the third gender in and if there, is looking at that phrasing and how you deal with the Borg and things like that. It's I'm sure when they come to consensus, because the rules committee works on consensus, that there will be a fascinating article written by Mr. Heaney. I anticipate that always.
Manifesto, I think, is the term you're looking for.
Yes, that's correct. I don't think he can do less than that.
No.
But I love reading his things. I'm not that nobody should ever take that as a dig. I generally find his writings to be fascinating.
Yeah, I guess I just want to, thank Ross for taking the time to bring it forward. And as a board, is there an actionable item, Ross, that you want us to address, or is it just more like a conversation that you wanted to have? I mean, it sounds like Charlie is already working on getting neuter out of the game, and I definitely think that's important. But I just want to make sure we're understanding, is there something specific you want us to do, or are we just bringing it forward?
There is something, but you're already doing it. I just hope that as the rules team goes over gender, they also bear in mind that there are species in the Trek universe that have 4 genders. There's also at least one that has a 3rd gender specifically. So more headaches for when he rules.
Not necessarily. And I don't think.
I don't want to speak. I don't want to speak.
Yeah.
Sorry, Maggie. Go ahead. I was lagging there. Go ahead, Maggie.
I don't think it necessarily it'll be as complicated as that.
As it could be?
As it could be. I mean, so I don't think anybody's going to go out and say, so when you open, when you play the Zoom type Android, you can choose from a list of genders that's like 8 or more long.
As Charlie can attest to, mine are always girls because they're images of TNG women. All the little cutouts that I put in all my Zoom type Androids. The Bev bot, the Keiko bot, and the Leah Brahms bots are my favorites.
I don't know what, I don't want to speak to what they're talking about. I'm not even sure I should have said they are talking about it, but I know that they're looking for ways to make what exists in 1E as.
Oh, Charlie, you got muted.
Yeah, sorry. As representative as they want to make what exists in 1E as representative as possible. So there's, I mean, the 4 gender Andorian thing is not canon to the material that we have, but the cogenitor for the 3rd gender is. So if we ever try to make that episode, we would need to at least define a. There was an episode of Enterprise where there was a species that had 3 genders, male, female, and cogenitor, and they needed all 3 to reproduce. It also got into super social commentary where like cogenitors were almost slaves, but the question is, like, how do we make it inclusive in a way that the game can actually handle, because if we say you can name any gender, then you could make a student type Android and name it, gender queer or whatever. And there's actually gameplay benefits to that, where now they're not able to be selected by something that names male or female. So, but you don't want to make a laundry list of genders, because then it's like, well, if I'm not on this list, I don't exist in Star Trek. And it's very complicated, and we're doing our best. And that's all I can ever say and ask from my staff. So.
Ross, unless you have anything else on the subject, I think that's probably it for now. Okay.
Again, just thank the board for letting me speak on the matter.
Definitely.
Always welcome, Ross.
Thank you.
So unless anyone sees anything, any other comments or questions from any other source, that should wrap up the agenda for this meeting. Anyone see anything
on YouTube? So
yeah, I don't see anything. All right. So
Nothing that I can see on Discord.
unless anyone objects, we'll say that the next meeting date is sometime in November, and that the meeting shall be adjourned. Any objections to that?